but I was particularly looking forward to meeting Father Don Calloway, M.I.C. And he is a member of the Congregation of Marians of the Immaculate Conception. And that's an order that is spread throughout the world. You may not know much about it. I recommend that you look it up on the internet. They have a congregation of more than 500 priests and brothers in 17 countries around the world. They support the Holy Father and embrace the official teachings of the Catholic Church in their special calling to spread devotion to Mary as the Immaculate Conception, to offer their lives for the holy souls in purgatory, especially the victims of war and disease. They operate publishing apostolates, and they assist where the need is greatest in parishes, shrines, schools, and missions. And they promote the divine mercy message and devotion about which you heard a little earlier today, and which we will celebrate tomorrow on Divine Mercy Sunday. The information contained on page 4 will give you just a little background for Father Don Calloway, who has had a most difficult early life and has survived trying times that would have tested stronger faiths than his. I'm looking forward to hearing from him. Father Donald Calloway.
All right. So for those of you who came to hear me last year, sorry, I got delayed. I was in California waiting for my flight about a day before that. I flew out there to just break it up, flying from the East Coast of the United States. So I went to California first to catch my flight over here, and I buckled over and went into the most excruciating pain I've ever had in my life, went to the emergency room, and had to have emergency gallbladder surgery last year. So that's why I was not here last year, because I had that little sucker taken out of my belly. I actually asked the doctors when they took it out if I could keep it, but I guess they don't do that. I thought that'd be kind of cool, keep it in a little jar, check it out every now and then. This little bugger is what gave me so much pain, you know. I've also had kidney stones. Pray you never get a kidney stone. If you've had one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Unbelievable pain. And that thing is so small you can hardly see it. Amazing. But it is good to be back here. This is my third time to New Zealand. Love it over here. And if you know me, if you've heard about my story, you've seen the video, a lot of people have already been coming up to me saying, we saw your video, we saw you on TV, this, that, and the other, YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff. Now my conversion book is out. Which I don't know if you have here in New Zealand, but and it's hard to say this without sounding arrogant, but it's a really good book. I wrote it. No, it sounds arrogant. How do you say your book is good? But it is. And everything that you're going to hear me say in these next 45 minutes is encapsulated in that book. And the way that I speak is the way that it's written in the book. Okay, I've got degrees, you know, all over the place, but the way that I speak it, it's who I am, you know, communicating the message in a very down-to-earth, a way that probably, after you hear me talk, you're probably going to kick yourself for not dragging your son, your daughter, your funky husband, your relatives who hate the church to hear me speak. That happens everywhere I go around the world. When I'm speaking in front of crowds of 10,000 people, they say, dang it, I wish I had brought my son to hear this, because I've never heard a priest say it like you have said this, and I've never heard a priest come from a background like you did, and we've never heard of a priest who surfs all around the world like you do, because I do, all around the world. I've surfed in world-class surf beaches all around the world. If you go to my Facebook, you'll see the videos and the pictures of me surfing. So part of the reason I keep coming back to New Zealand is to surf, because the first time I came, we went out to Pia, right, and it was like a hurricane, so we couldn't go out. And then the second time I came, there were shark sightings down in Kaikoura in the South Island, so that kind of freaked us out, so we didn't go. So pray on Monday when I go, before I fly out, that we can get some good surf here, because I haven't technically surfed New Zealand yet, and I want to do that. So what I'm going to share with you today is my story of conversion and what the Lord has done and what He's doing in my life. And I want you to remember this, though, as I'm saying it and going through it. Believe it or not, even though it's got my name attached to it, it's really not even about me. I'm nothing. I know that. I'm a loser. I'm a sinner, just like you. I still got baggage issues and need of a lot more conversion, because it's not a one-time event. You know, you have the romance of it, the honeymoon of falling in love with God, like I did, and I'll talk about that. But there's that ongoing need for conversion. And as you listen to this story, please be thinking about the people you know in your life who need a spiritual kick in the pants, who need a divine 2x4 across the face. And that may be you. Maybe you have been drugged here today by your faithful wife who's always beaten the church down your throat, and finally you just said, fine, I'll go to this convention and see, you know, what do they got to say. Or maybe you're a young person who got dragged here by your mom and dad. I know. I would have been one of those years ago. Think of the people in your life, people who are not here today in particular, that you've been praying for, that you've been hoping that they would be able to find a right relationship with God and hold out hope. Because what I'm going to convey to you is a true story. It's been verified by my family, all of my family, and by some of my friends from the past, the ones who are still alive, and even by institutions, even by foreign countries, the things that happened in my life. And if God can do this to me, the bottom of the barrel of humanity, I should be dead and in a warm place forever because of the life that I lived. A lot of people think they see me like flying through an airport with one of these around my neck, and it's so funny because they make assumptions a lot of times. And I've asked them in the past. I've only been a priest 8 years, but I ask people in airports because I travel like mad. I got enough frequent flyer miles I could go to Saturn and back. You know, I got some serious miles. And I ask people sometimes, what are your thoughts when you see a priest in an airport? And a lot of them are like, thank God, I hope you're on my flight, you know. It's hilarious. I'm happy when I see a nun on a plane. I'm like, oh, sweet, you know. A bride of Christ is on this puppy. It's not going to go down today, at least. But some people, they think, well, obviously, you've come from a good family. You were probably homeschooled. You've got 14 brothers and sisters. You're confirmed by the Pope. I mean, that's what it means to be a priest. You know, you got to have this perfect, flawless, impeccable past. That should be the case, but in the times in which we live, it's not. The vast majority of men who are entering seminaries today have had a conversion or a reversion, meaning they tinkered around, they toyed around with some other, you know, ideologies, philosophies, and stuff. But they got smacked in the face by God through the Blessed Virgin Mary, most instances, or through an explanation of a Eucharistic miracle, or through the papacy of John Paul II, now Pope Benedict. It's evident. If you just ask the guys, they'll tell you this. It's happening globally across the world. And I'm just one of many of these guys, and I'm just one that could get up here and has the privilege of giving a testimony like this. And as I give it, please remember the people in your family, your immediate family. Because if I asked every one of you to raise your hand if you know people in your family that need conversion, every one of you would raise your hand. Yeah, all of us need conversion, totally. But the world right now is messed up. It is messed up. And he who denies that, you're living on another planet. I mean, this thing is messed up in so many ways, radical ways. And so the message I want to convey to you is one of hope and one of extreme mercy. Actually, we just did a new DVD on my story called Extreme Mercy. God is so in love with this messed up world that he's willing to save, for our times, one of the most profound messages in the history of the world. Not a new message in its forms and devotions, yes, but the message in its essence is that God is our Father and he's merciful. And no matter what we've done, he's willing to forgive us and bring us back and put the ring on our finger and kill the fatted calf and throw a party. Because that's what he did for me. And that's what he wants to do for all of us. So in order to convey this, I got to back up, obviously. So when I was born in the United States, my mom and dad were not Christian. They were not Catholic Christian. They didn't believe in God. They didn't talk about God. Completely foreign to them and thus to me, being born into that. And because they had no foundation of their marriage, they separated. My mother remarried a second time, and then my mother divorced, and then my mother remarried a third time before I was 9 years old. This is quite common in Western civilization today. And as I grew up, I didn't have any exposure to Christianity other than seeing guys on Sunday mornings getting in the way of Tom and Jerry who were holding a Bible, sweating like a beast, and saying, glory, glory. That was Christianity to me. It was, these people need medication. That's what I thought. If these people are representing God, you know, they need to take a few more milligrams because these guys need help. They scared me. And as I went through, certain people that I met that claimed to be Christian scared me as well. Because I knew a couple people who, every time I coughed, they had to pray over me, you know, be healed, be healed. And it was like, what's wrong with you people? You know, I mean, it's a cough. It'll pass, you know. And so I got really turned off. And then Jesus to me, sure, I'd heard his name and all that. I didn't believe in him. But Jesus was as real to me, and I say this with pain in my heart, because Jesus was as real to me as he is, sadly, today to most teenagers. Jesus was as real to me as the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, okay? He wasn't real. He wasn't historical. He was mythological. He was something that society created to fill a need to get a day off of work, basically. Everybody in America loves to be a Christian on December 25th, right? Because you get a day off of work, and you bring out ornaments, and you give presents and everything. But then, after the festivities, you put all the little decorations back in the closet, and you get on with reality. That's what I thought of Christianity as I was growing up. And it was basically affirmed to me in the secular education system. Okay? Me and all my generation. Me and my generation are the fruit of the hippie generation in the United States, the progeny of the sexual revolution, and the fight against the machine and the institution, and we'll do what we want because we've got rights, right? I'm the fruit. Me and my generation, people my age, are the fruit of the hippies. And so when I grew up, all their ideals and everything became encapsulated in the media with all of its new technologies, in the music with all that it could do, and now you could not just hear music, you could see music. The MTV generation, music became visual. And growing up in that, the textbooks got changed in radical ways to promote what was being propagated by, you know, that era that my parents grew up in and fought for and did all kinds of rallies for and so forth. And basically it was this. In the school system, me and all my friends learned this. We're not the center of the cosmos. You're not anything special, so get over yourself. This is just a cosmic rock going at Mach speed nowhere that came together over some fortuitous chance event over gazillions of years. Cosmic goo came together and formed you, and what are you? You're a monkey. You're a monkey, so get over yourself. You can make your own rules about things. Live by things that feel good, pleasurable things. And so the animal that I was told I was, and we had all the graphs in the book and so forth, the animal I was told that I was, I became. And I'm not making this up. Almost every single kid I grew up with became an animal, living like a beast. Because we were being exposed to things that seemed and were pleasurable, right? I'm not going to get graphic because there's young people here, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. I know your country suffers from it because the whole Western civilization suffers from it. Pornography, numero uno among the sins of men. It has saturated everywhere, and it's just a mouse click away now. It's in your house. It's everywhere. And it is corrupting the hearts of men at such a rate, it's unbelievable. And even if you're not intentionally looking for it, you can't help but see it. I've only been here since this morning, and I've seen it on billboards, the sides of buses, on advertisements. It's everywhere. And it's corrupting. But see, this is what people fought for, to have rights, to be able to do whatever you want to do. And so as I was growing up, me and all my friends were exposed to this stuff, and we were actually given things by our teachers telling us, when you do these things, when you experiment, when you find your orientation in life, here, use this, be safe. You know what I'm alluding to. See, all my friends were exposed to this, and almost all of us gave into it. We didn't know any better. These are the people teaching us. It's in the books. These are the people with the PhDs. And so I went down that path, and at that time I was living in Southern California, and my life went down the tubes. I wouldn't have seen it that way. I'm speaking in retrospect. I started smoking weed when I was 11, pot, marijuana. I started drinking when I was 11. I started looking at, filthy things, right? Not a beauty that will help me to form a manhood out of me, right? To be virtuous, which is the root of manhood. Not something that help me to grow, to be honorable, and to treat women with respect, but, things that my eyes would be exposed to, my emotions, my psyche, my desires, whether I was awake or asleep, it polluted me, and I became its victim. I became its slave. How many in our times have fallen into this? A lot. And I was only 11, 12 years old when this stuff was going on. And so as a family now, dad number 3, he was a military officer, and this explains why we moved so much. We moved out of the country of the United States, where he got another assignment in Japan. I didn't want to go to Japan. I loved Southern California. It's where my passion for surfing came, and all that. But I had to go, and I went. And when I got to Japan, I freaked out. And I started doing crazy things, to the degree of I got involved in a criminal organization called the Yakuza. You know what that is, the Yakuza? Okay, anybody know what that is? No, it's the Japanese mafia, okay? So when you're fully initiated, you get the top half of your pinky cut off. Okay, I was 15 years old, little Caucasian kid, growing his hair long, hanging out with these people and running money to different casinos. I ran away in the country of Japan on the main island of Honshu, and I caused an international scene. A lot of times in the United States you hear about military personnel doing stupid stuff at a bar one night. A bunch of sailors get wasted and go out and do something stupid. Well, here I was, a 15-year-old military dependent, the son of a military officer who was causing an international scene. In the Far East military news at the time, you would have actually heard about me. Even today, if you go and put my name in a Google search without father, okay, yeah, you'll find stuff that was, back then you didn't have all that stuff, but now a lot of the news is being put on the internet. And so I was being tracked down in the country of Japan because I was running with this criminal organization, and I was doing serious criminal activity. Oh my gosh, you have no idea the things that I was doing. And during that whole process, and I'm saying this at Mach speed, so I apologize, I only have 45 minutes, but it's all in the book if you want to get the whole thing. During that whole process, my mom is having a crisis. My dad number 3, is having a crisis. As a matter of fact, he never got promoted in the United States Navy again because of me. He had to retire early and take a reduced pension because of me. Did I care? I didn't care. I was self-absorbed. I worshiped the unholy trinity, basically. Me, myself, and I. It was all about me, right? Everything I wanted that felt good, give it to me now, right? I was formed in a generation of instantaneous pleasure. I want it now. If I press a button, I want results now. Why? Because we've been formed in our times that you want food, you want dinner, you put it in a little box, put it in 3 minutes, bang. You want to call somebody on the other side of the world, punch in 11 digits, what's up, right? Now. And so that's how my generation's been formed. Anything that gets in the way of the immediate gratification of the moment, get out of the way. Eliminate it, annihilate it. And so I would have been right there back in my time thinking, sure, if a woman gets pregnant, that's simply tissue. Get it out of the way, discard it, because that's going to eliminate any possibility that she can have in the future for fun. That's how I thought. That's how most of my friends thought. So as I was being tracked down in Japan, I didn't know this, but my mother had a huge conversion. My mom is 100% Italian, okay? How she wasn't Catholic is pretty funky, okay? Most people with Italian heritage, you got Catholicism in there somewhere. Well, we had it, but it was way back in the back. And when they came over to America from southern Italy, they kind of checked 2 things at the gate. Italian, so I never learned Italian, which is probably a good thing, because I would have totally worked that with the ladies, right? And the second thing was Catholicism. They didn't pass on Catholicism, so I didn't have any knowledge of it. Well, my mom, in Japan, just like here I've noticed, it's amazing to me. I travel the world. I've gone to northern Alaska, and guess what is everywhere? And I say this with no disrespect, but with absolute honor and awe, actually, because I love these people. There are Filipino people everywhere, okay? They're like the special forces of God. Really. And I say this because in Japan, there was a whole bunch of Filipino women who had married American GIs, you know, and so you got Filipino women over there who are like super Catholic. I mean, super Catholic. One thing you don't mess around in life with is a Catholic Filipino woman. They're intense. So my mom is going through a crisis, but I didn't know. I was out running with the mafia. My mom meets a Filipino Catholic woman in Japan, and this Filipino woman says to my mother, and I don't mean this with any respect, I love Filipino people, but this Filipino woman said to my mother, I know what you got to do. You got to talk to Father, right? You got to talk to Father, right? The THs kind of come out as Ds, you know, when they're trying to work it, at least in American English. I don't know what y'all do over here, right? So my mom's like, why do I have to talk to Father? So she's like, because he's got the answer to your problems. So my mom goes and talks to a military chaplain on the military base over there, and this priest changed my mom's life. He told my mom about Catholicism, right? The truth of Catholicism, about the Eucharist, the Blessed Virgin Mary, the sacraments, confession, rosary, devotions, the saints, the papacy, right? The meat of Catholicism. My mom fell in love with it. I didn't know any of that. I wouldn't have cared at the time. My mother had to leave the country with my half-brother while they tracked me down. So eventually I was apprehended. I was thrown in the brig, the military kind of holding cell. I escaped, was found hiding in a sewer, and they put me back in the brig, and they kicked me out of the country of Japan, literally deported me, handcuffed to the fuselage of the military cargo jet, right? A MAC flight, if you know what these are, military stuff, they're cargo planes. You put tanks in them and all kinds of equipment, and they have web seating on the side. They wanted me out of the country so fast, they didn't even put me on a commercial flight. They took me to Yakuza military base and put me on a MAC flight, handcuffed to the fuselage, and kicked me out. Okay, that's how bad it was. And so we go to Honolulu, and they put me on a commercial flight, American Airlines, and we fly to LAX, and I got 2 military police officers next to me. I'm handcuffed, and they're thinking about duct tape in my mouth because I was so foul. I was so out of my mind, I was trying to spit on anybody. I mean, I was a lunatic. I mean, I lost it. I was a beast, basically, and my pleasure was being taken away. And if you get between me and my pleasure, I'm going to hurt somebody. You see, that's kind of the mentality at the root of a lot of what's going on right now in the culture. And so when we get back, the agreement was, because I wasn't 18, hadn't done anything on American soil, so they couldn't incarcerate me in the United States, but I had to be locked up in some capacity, so I went to my first rehab for drugs, sex problems, drug problems, sexual problems, personality problems. I had problems, okay? I go in there, and I'm there for 3 months, and they tried their best to fix me, but it was a joke, sadly. We would just sit around in small group and affirm each other and sing Kumbaya, you know, and make s'mores and go play on the trees. I'm not kidding, right? Really. We would do exercises where we would affirm each other by falling into the arms of each other and, can I trust you? Will you catch me? It's fun, but ultimately it's stupid, okay? But corporate America pays huge money to team building, you know? It's hilarious, man. And so that was their method, okay? That didn't work. It didn't work for almost everybody in there, and they knew it wouldn't work. I mean, it blows my mind that people with PhDs were saying to us, they would gather us in a room like this, like about 100 of us, and say, we've been doing this for years. 1, maybe 2 of you, statistics show are going to make it through the program. That was their method of kind of psyching us up. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, dude, you need to get a new job, Jack, because if you got a PhD and you got school loans you're paying off for the next 30 years, and the fruit of your labor, your life's labor, is 1, maybe 2, that's horrible. I mean, that's horrible. There's got to be a better way. So when I got out, I continued the same stuff. But when I got out, 3 months had gone by, and guess what happened? My mom says to me, Donnie, guess what? And I'm like, what? And she goes, your father and I, we've become Catholic. And I'm like, whatever, man. You're following little green men around the cosmos. You know, I didn't know what Catholicism was. To me, it was a cult. It was something that, you know, hopefully this will mean something to you because I don't know what programs you've watched and so forth. Back when I was a kid, I used to be fascinated by this show called In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy. Remember that? The wah, 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 wah music. He's searching for Bigfoot and Nessie over in Scotland and all kind of funky stuff, right? So when my mom told me she'd become Catholic, I thought, whatever. I mean, you're worshiping some dude over in Italy or something, and you're off looking for, cosmic whatever. No idea. So she goes, come to church with us. And then it dawned upon me, you got to be kidding me. You have become a Christian. You've been suckered into the group of dorks. You've become a dork, man. That's what it meant to me to be a Christian, right? You follow the great dork maker in the sky, right? That's what I thought Christianity was. Idiots. You got to be totally ignorant and uninformed and unenlightened to be a Christian. And so I thought, this is insane. And so she said, Donnie, we found the truth. And I put it right back in her face. I was like, oh, you found the truth, did you? And this is what I said to her. I said, let me remind you of something, Mom. Are you not the woman who was married 3 times? What does your Jesus think about that? You found truth, huh? You got your little truth, huh? Well, why don't you go do your little religion thing, because I know who you are, right? You know what my mom said in response to that? Donnie, you're right. Son, I blew it. I was a horrible mother. I didn't know what I was doing. I married so young. I threw it all away. The things you saw me do, heard me say, son, if I could take that back, I would, but I can't. And I'm going to carry that for the rest of my life. But I'm telling you, son, your father and I, we have found the truth, and it's Catholicism. You know what my response was? Get a life. I couldn't even stay in their house. Why? Because I didn't need to go to church. Their house was a church, all right? And this is what I mean. All of the interior decorating that my mom used to do, now there was some dude, and he would come about this big, sometimes he'd be this big, in a room. He'd have a spear and he'd be stabbing a snake in the head, right? He had wings and he'd be stabbing that snake in the head, right? What is that, right? No idea what this was, but my mom was fascinated by it, and she had little ones, big ones, and they were in every room. Obviously it was St. Michael, but I didn't know that. This dude would keep appearing in my pocket, in my pants, on some little card that was like ironed, it was like a real stiff card. And I'd pull it out and it would say, St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. And I'm like, what? I'm like, crazy. Right? My parents these are little green men my parents are searching the cosmos for, I'm like, what is this nonsense? And so I couldn't stay in their house because they were so religious. Oh my gosh, they were so religious to me. Like every time they opened up a pack of crackers, they would stop and say, bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts. It drove me insane. I was like, you're nuts. I'm like, just eat this stinking cracker, man. You're not going to die, right? And I would mock them. I'd be like, that's insane, man. You people are fanatics. Get out of here. So I left, and I ended up following an old hippie band called the Grateful Dead, right? Like the ultimate hippie band back in that time. I was like a retro hippie. I always wished that I had grown up in the 60s and 70s. I was born in the 70s, early 70s, but I always was upset that I didn't get to go to Woodstock. That was kind of my angst against society. It was like, dang it, I missed out by a generation. And so I got to kind of live my dream by living in a Volkswagen bus and following the Grateful Dead around to all these different concerts. I got a tattoo of the Grateful Dead on my shoulder, which I still have, and I grew my hair as long as I could without cutting it for about 7 years. And this is one of the few pictures that my mom has that she didn't burn from my past. Okay, that was me, right? Yeah, that's not a girl, okay? This is me when my hair is short, okay? When I was going on 21 years old, my hair was all the way down to my belt, okay? I didn't cut my hair for about 7 years. Had wicked split ends all the way to the root, but I washed it, so I didn't have dreadlocks. So I'm just living a crazy lifestyle, following this band, and then one morning I wake up strapped to a gurney with people in white gowns over me saying, hey, are you okay? Wake up, wake up, wake up, can you hear me, can you hear me? And it was medical professionals that I had been escorted to a hospital, and they were trying to bring me to, because at that point in my life, I was doing serious amounts of heroin, LSD, mushrooms, crack, cocaine, anything you could smoke, snort, or drink. I was doing it, and I was doing it every day. I fried my brain. I mean, I've baked myself so bad. I should not even be here. I should not have my mental faculties. I should not have my physical ability at all. I mean, it was so bad. Back at that time, anybody that knew me could have said, this guy is headed for death. And, and that's what the programs tell you, too. There's jails, institutions, and then you die, right? So I go to another rehabilitation facility, but this one was a psychiatric unit. Have you ever seen the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Okay, I lived that for 3 months. I was in a place, a lockdown, padded facility, where every now and then when I went off on a counselor, they threw me into a padded room where I would just beat the daylights out of the walls that were padded, basically until my knuckles bled. I was losing my mind. And they were trying to give me medications. Just take this pill, take this pill, take this pill. If you haven't noticed, everybody's taking pills today, right? We are a pill-popping people. Unbelievable, right? I'm not saying medicine's bad. It's not. It's awesome. It's from God. But nowadays, if they don't know what to do, they just classify you with something. AD, D, 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 take this. I don't know, you know. And they just make junk up a lot of times, really. To say that, okay? So they were trying to make junk up to classify me. I had problems, for sure. But they were just winging it, and I could tell they were winging it. And I got out of that facility after 3 months, and I had a roommate for about 2 months of that who literally would look at the wall for the good part of the day and just go, yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, he was gone, right? Give my meds to him, you know what I'm saying? I mean, this dude is gone, fried. And did that knock me back into reality? No, because the method was the same in the program. We would gather in small group, right? Sadly, I got a wound now. Anytime I hear small group, I'm like, right? It's like, scares me, right? Because oftentimes it's such a worldly method of trying to alleviate a spiritual pain, a soul problem, right? Don't put a Band-Aid on something you got to go to the root of. But these were secular places, and they couldn't, because if you tried to talk about God, you'd lose your job, right? So when I get out, I go back into the same crazy lifestyle. And I go back to my parents' house on one occasion, and guess what? My parents are not just going to church on Sunday, they're going every day. Who does this, right? I'm like, what? I'm like, every day? That's insane. You have been suckered into believing this stuff. I just can't believe this. And so at that point, they were moving again, and they offered me to move with them. So I did. So when I moved with them, I got into a lot of trouble with the law, and got into a lot of trouble. And then I find myself in my parents' house as I'm about to turn 21, and I had an ultimate crisis, what I call an existential crisis, a crisis of being. I didn't want to live anymore. I was even thinking about taking my own life. I didn't want to be here anymore. Life sucked for me, okay? Because I'd had every pleasurable monkey experience that you can have, all right? And I'd have the most beautiful thing that was on this earth, women, I'd had, right? Of different cultures, shapes, sizes, nationalities, you name it. Now what, right? What's the answer? What satisfies me? Just doing this endlessly, is that gonna? It felt good, but see, the principle of that is the more you do, the more you gotta do to feel the pleasure. You know, you gotta increase the dosage. You build up a tolerance to it. It's the same thing with, you know, pursuing pleasurable things. After a while, you get to a point where you're going to do so much that you're going to die, either from overdose or from AIDS or some other disease, because you're living like a beast. And I realized that. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to live anymore. I got nothing for me. I ain't got no high school diploma. I don't want a career. I got nothing. I'm checking out. Now, I don't like pain even for that much, so I didn't want to be the one to press delete. So as I'm sitting in my parents' house on this occasion, I go out into the hallway, because my friends had stopped calling, you know, and they're all wasted on a beach somewhere, and the house is quiet. And for the first time in about 10 years, since I was like 10 years old, this is what it sounded like in my room. I didn't even have a room. It was like an extended closet that my parents had for me when I passed through on occasion. This is what I heard for about the first time in 10 years in my life. Nothing. And the silence was so loud, it was screaming at me, right? I don't know if you've noticed, at least in America, I don't know what happens here, but silence is like an enemy nowadays. You can't go most times to a restaurant. You can't go to an airport. You go to an airport, good luck trying not to be forced to watch TV, right? Terminal, gate, whatever, there's a TV and you will watch it, right? good luck. I try and find places like that in terminals. It's hard, right? You can't go shopping, at least in America. I don't know about here. I'm not saying the music is bad. A lot of times it's just elevator music. It's, nothing much to it. But where's the silence? I hadn't been in a silent environment in like a decade. And so I freaked out. The silence was like screaming at me. So I got in the hallway to look at like National Geographics. I'm looking, and they're always easy to find on a bookshelf, right? They're yellow and they come in chunks. Well, there was nothing but one yellow book. The cover, the binding, said something weird. It said, "The Queen of Peace visits Med Ju G G G G G G G G Gore G G G Gore." Right? What the heck is that? Right? So I pull it out, and I'm like, I don't know, man. And it had a cross on the cover, which to me meant it was the dork manual, And some dude who wrote it, after his name, it said capital A, which meant one thing to me. That dude is a friend of Bill, right? If you know what I mean. AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, he puts it behind his name. That's insane, right? That dude is like proud member of AA, right? Because I did my AA and NA meetings trying to get my chip in the small group in the things. And so I thought, I met some cool people in those programs, so maybe this dude is debunking this cult that my parents have joined, and this is the book they didn't want me to find. Ha ha. So I go into the room, and I look at the pictures, and the pictures I don't understand, because it's got some little kids on the karate position looking up into the air like they had just smoked a big fat one, right? They were, oh yeah, right? Look, high as a kite. So I'm like, what? So I'm trying to read the pictures, and trying to pronounce their names was another issue, right? Could have used a few vowels, right? Over there, there's like CZWLK, right? That's how they work it. I was like, huh? And where's, Jim? Give me Jim, simple name. Couldn't pronounce their names. I'm like, and half the places, the locations I couldn't pronounce. PDROBO, how do you even say that, right? From an American perspective, I'm like clueless. And so I'm like, all right, what is going on? So I start reading the beginning of the book. It's talking about some war. I didn't care, so I was fast-forwarding, whatever. I get to some other stuff, and these kids, little kids, are saying that they're seeing some beautiful woman come from heaven, and she smells like roses. There's heavenly doves all around. There's like a clap of thunder. They fall to their knees, like they're pushed to their knees, and they start crying because she's so beautiful. Now, me and my little hippie heart, I'm thinking, sweet. This is awesome, man. What the heck are these kids smoking, right? This is unbelievable. I was searching for the Gypsy Queen, right? And so I was like, what is going on? So I keep reading, and then she starts talking to them with a message that I didn't want to hear. She started saying, I've come to tell you that God exists. And I'm like, oh, right. Where's God, right? If I couldn't, smoke them, snort them, or drink them, God didn't exist. Yet, all my life, since basically the age of reason and when I could speak, I had said the word God probably 1,000 times a day. God this, God that. Never in a reverential way, right? Said it 1,000 times a day since I was about 5 years old. And so all of a sudden she's saying that God exists, and I'm like, whatever. So I keep reading, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And then she said, I've come to tell you that God exists while there's still time. And I'm like, lady, there ain't nothing but time. This is a cosmic rock going nowhere. What are you talking about? And so she says, you're not happy, right? Like the message is like right speaking to me. And I'm like, all right, I'll give you that much. Whoever you are, I'm not happy, all right? I'm thinking about taking my life. And then she said, you're not happy because you're sinning. What? See, the music that I grew up listening to, I grew up listening to bands that went by the name Judas Priest, okay? I used to listen to lyrics that went like this, 666, number of the beast, I will return and possess your soul and you will burn, right? The highway to hell was the same thing as the stairway to heaven to me. Because neither one of them existed, I ran with the devil. But it didn't mean anything, right? But now, this beautiful woman I can't see is saying, you're not happy because you're sinning. Sin to me in my generation meant one thing. Good times. Go for it. Don't let anybody inhibit you. And if they try, you claim your rights. And you fight for it. To be able to do what you want to do. Because you're just a monkey passing through here anyway. And so she started saying this stuff. I'm like, all right, man, that's too simplistic. You got to be kidding me. That's too black and white for me. Because everybody taught me growing up, hey, there's no black and white, okay? If anybody tries to tell you their moral dogmas, don't listen to them. They're uninformed, they're not educated, they're antiquated, outdated, and just need to go away. And so as I keep reading this, I'm just like, all right, this is the kind of stuff that basically people told me to avoid and to not listen to, and they would say that you're nuts. And so as I kept reading, I thought to myself, you know what, this message is good, but it's not for me because I'm broke, man. I mean, there was a time when I held a gun to my mother's head, really. There was a time when I used to hurt so many people. You don't know me. If there's a heaven, you don't know me. You don't know how messed up I am. I'm in sin, what you're calling sin, patterns of sin I've been doing since basically I can remember. And I know it's nasty, and I know it's foul, and I'm ashamed of it, I'm disgusted by it, but I can't stop. So what? So thanks for revealing this to me, for giving me this, and I can't change. I can't change. And there was a bookmark in that book, and it had an alleged message from this Blessed Virgin Mary, and it said this: you don't have to change to love me. Loving me will change you. That's profound. I read it again. You don't have to change to love me. Loving me will change you. I didn't know that kind of love. I love people like I love an ice cream cone. Take a few licks and on with the next flavor. My love was all self-centered. I didn't know heavenly, sacrificial, long-suffering love. And as I kept reading this book, she took it to the next level. She went from just talking about God, because interesting what she did in working with me. See, because I see this now as I travel around. It's kind of funny when I meet people in airports and stuff, and they say, oh, it's nice to see you. I'm glad you're on our plane, Father. I'm a spiritual person. I don't need the institutionalized religion, but I'm a believer, and I believe in God, and I'm a spiritual person. That's hilarious to me when people say that, because I'm like, you know what? So is Lucifer. That doesn't mean squat, okay? That doesn't impress me, right? When you tell me you're a spiritual person. You don't have a choice, Jack. You're born that way, right? So whatever. So when she took it from talking about God, she took it to the next level of talking about Jesus Christ, right? Because there's a lot of people out there in the world today, their God is their belly button. Trust me. There's people, humming to themselves for hours at a time in Sedona, Arizona, and so forth, and just, worshiping themselves, basically, and all over the world. New Age, man, it's all over the place. Just deifying yourself, trying to. But she took it to the next level. She started talking about Jesus. And I was like, oh, man, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And as she started talking, she started saying that she was his mother. This is how ignorant I was of Christianity. I didn't realize that. Wait a minute. His mom? That's interesting, because I always thought that Jesus was kind of poof, shazam, rub-a-dub-dub. He just popped out of the air somewhere at 33, and sure, he had like a family or something, but it was kind of fabricated, just kind of made up for the books. They fudged it in the books, right? And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So what do you got to say about your Jesus? Because I've heard a lot of people talking about Jesus on TV. I've had some people I knew talking about this Jesus. What's your take? And as she started talking about Jesus, it was a way that I'd never heard before. Yes, God Almighty, all-powerful, all that, all loving, all compassionate. As a matter of fact, it was he who had sent her, his mother, to earth for people like me. And as I kept reading that book, I consumed the book. Closed that book at like 5 a.m., read the whole thing, didn't understand a lot of it. Closed it. My mom's coming down the steps at like 5-something in the morning, and I tried to formulate to my mother this need, which was like death to me. Trying to formulate a need to my mother and a spiritual one was like taking the dagger I'd been ramming in her heart for years, to pull it out in her presence, look her in the eyes, and ram it in my own. To commit an act of humility in the presence of my mother, the ultimate death. But I had to do it. So I tried to say, Mom, man, I couldn't do it. And she's like, what? And I said, Mom, I need to I could not do it. So she's frustrated. She's half awake. So she goes, Donnie, what? So I said, Mom, I got to talk to a Catholic priest, okay? I said it like that, thinking maybe, she wouldn't hear it, but I could have the satisfaction of having said it. Oh, she heard it. And what she said to me, and this is hilarious, she goes, "Yeah, right." I don't blame her. So I said, "Mom, I'm serious. I need to talk to a Catholic priest." And I showed her the book. I said, "What the heck is going on?" When she saw that I had that book, she didn't say nothing, man. She ran over to the phone, and at like 5:30 in the morning, she punched digits in at Mach speed, and she had some conversations with some dudes that she was trying to hook it up for later or for now, but they were trying to say like 8 o'clock, a more human time, right? Priests are human beings, right? You got to get up, put their pants on, do necessary human functions like everybody else, right? So eventually, of my own, initiative, volition, I ran over to the military chapel that was on that military base where they were living, and I went over there, and I met with the priest, and I wish I had so much more time to go through this, but I don't. So I freaked this dude out, trust me. I go over there with my long hair, my tie-dye, my whole funkiness, and he didn't know what to make of me, and so he sends me into the chapel. Guess what's in that chapel, right? 5 Filipino women. I'm toast, man. It took one for my mother. God brought a small unit, right, for me, right? Because Filipinos, man, wherever there's one, there's 100 of them, right? They move together, right? So God set this thing up. So I go in. I thought they were going to jump up and run over to me and be like, "Evil, wicked, evil," right? Because I knew I was nasty. So I go to the back of the church. I stoop down as far as I can. I make sure there's no girls in there, right? Unless I mess things up for later. I wasn't there yet in my conversion, right? So I'm like, all right, man, I can't believe I'm in here. So then they pull out some necklace, and they start doing some incantation that sounded like this, Hail Mary, Holy Mary, Amen. Hail Mary, Holy Mary, Amen. Right? Weird stuff. And they all had a necklace doing it. I'm like, this is funky. So then, because they're bold people, this lady, there's always a leader of a Filipino unit. There's always one, right? She turns around to me and she says, "Young man, would you like to pray the next decade, the next decade?" I'm looking at this freak and I'm like, 10 years? You're nuts, man. I didn't even say anything. I'm thinking that in my mind. And so she goes, "The second sorrowful mystery, please. The second sorrowful mystery." I'm like, the second sorrowful mystery doesn't mean dink to me, you weirdo, right? I'm like, what are you doing? And I didn't know what to make of it. They went on for about another 15 minutes doing this. And then the priest comes in dressed like a hippie, right? Robe on, flower on the front. He comes up and he starts doing all kind of stuff like he's going to take flight, right? And I'm like, what is going on? And then, this is the core of what I want to say, since this is a Eucharistic convention. And I want you to remember this, because this is a special gift given to me. It has not happened since. I'm no Padre Pio, trust me. At one point, the women get down on their knees. The priest bends over. He picks up a little white circle about that big. I'm clueless. I've never been to a liturgy. He bends over, picks this up, and he says with total focus, "Take this, all of you, and eat it. This is my body." And he holds it up. And I'm looking at him going, "You crazy." You crazy. That man just told us to eat that because it's his body, right? I'm out of here, right? I'm thinking this dude needs help. So as he's standing there, I'm looking, and he's just standing there. And I look at the Filipino women in the front, and they're locked in a position of total, they're focused on what he's doing. Out of nowhere. And there was nobody else in that church, I guarantee it. Out of nowhere, I heard a voice say to me, above me, below me, inside of me, outside of me, but it was not me. It said, "Worship." And I thought to myself, I'm like, what the heck was that? And then all of a sudden, as I'm looking, it was as though this happened to me, like figuratively. An injection of Catholicism 101 was given to me. I understand that now as a gift of knowledge, right? I was an idiot, trust me. I dropped out of school a long time ago. I didn't know any of this kind of stuff, nothing. All of a sudden, I knew what that priest was holding was Jesus Christ. I didn't know how. I learned the theology later. He put down Jesus Christ. He picked up that really cool-looking cup, right? I didn't know it was a chalice. He bent over and he said, "Take this, all of you, and drink from it. This is my blood." And he held it up. Guess what happened? Worship. Same voice spoke to me. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I knew what was in that cup was the blood of Jesus Christ. I didn't know how. I would learn later. Then you know what happened? I saw this with my own eyes. I saw that priest get up. I saw the Filipino women get up. They met halfway. I saw that priest hold up Jesus Christ, and I heard him say the body of Christ. And I saw them say, Amen. I saw that priest put Jesus Christ inside them. He goes up, gets the cup, comes back down, and they drank it. Almost all my life. You know how many things I was putting on my tongue? Longing for the meaning. How much liquid of the world I was drinking. See, I used to go to concerts and stuff, and it was basically a liturgy, a secular liturgy, where there was a main celebrant, Jerry Garcia. I hope this means something to you. If it doesn't, follow me. Right? Not condemning concerts, but the vast majority of them that your children are going to are basically the liturgy. Okay? A secular form of a liturgy where you've got a main celebrant, con-celebrants, you've got incense, you've got votive candles, you've got communion, you've got a chalice, and you share it with this fellowship, right? Really. I see this in retrospect now so clearly, it's insane. I couldn't see it then. But through this conversion that happened like at Mach speed, the divine 2x4, bam, God came in and romanced my soul. It took me out of the world for a while, figuratively, where all my friends left me. I cut my hair, got normal human being clothes, stopped using all my foul language, started acting like a human being, and trying to get my manhood back, and went into what I call a divine romance, a honeymoon with God, for a few years, and then was just discerning, what do you want me to do? And through that process, obviously, I became Catholic because Catholicism unlocked the truth of everything. Catholicism was the meaning behind everything. And unless you understand Catholicism, you're not going to understand anything in its totality. You might have pieces of it here and there, but Catholicism unlocked everything. Everything I ever wanted to know, it gave me the answers. And it was unbelievable to me. Unbelievable to me. And the thing that was so disheartening for me was that the vast majority of Catholics that I met didn't understand it. Many of them were fighting the church, hated the church. Outdated, antiquated, male-dominated, hierarchical church that needs to update with the times. I've been down that road. It don't work. This is the body of Christ. It's the new ark of salvation. It's got all the mysteries. Broke, wounded, yeah, you and me, from the very beginning. We're all messed up. But this is the place where he's deposited the mystery of what it's all about. Creation, redemption, sanctification, and how it all goes down. And when I surrendered to that and fell in love with that, it blew me away that the vast majority of people that I met didn't understand it because they haven't been taught it, right? Because the 60s and the 70s, whoo, those were some tough times, man. You know what I'm talking about. And now you see it in your children, because I bet you the vast majority of your children hate church. I bet you I'm telling you the truth right to your heart. Because we live in some messed up times. And we got to get back to the fundamentals, man. We got to get back to the acknowledgement of truth is truth and wrong is wrong. And when we don't do that, it ain't going to get better. It's going to get worse. And I hate to be the one to stand up as John the Baptist and say it. I do. I hate it. I wish I could just go surf, man. But the reality is that, man, this is true. There is a God, and there's only one. And then he founded the church, and there's only one. Yeah, really. All the others are the inventions of men. Yikes. Oh my gosh, that priest is so arrogant. Dude, this ain't arrogant. It's factual history, Jack. It's so obvious. Does that mean God doesn't love people who aren't Catholic? Of course not. God loves everybody. Everybody. But truth is truth, man. Right? Just like if you heard me, and I apologize if I just go off here for a minute, because somebody needs to say this stuff. Like, if people start saying 1 + 1 = 4, dude, you're an idiot. Right? You didn't make mathematics. It's objective. It's outside of you and me. Nobody with no matter how many PhDs they got behind their name can change this. Okay? It was around before you were. It'll be around after you're gone. It's objective. You didn't create it. You got no rights to dork with it, tinker around with it, and try and change it. And if you do, you're a lunatic. You've lost your ability to use reason. Well, if that's true, even more true is moral truth. Moral truth. right? Which the church, the Catholic Church, the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, is the one who has it in its fullness. People may call me arrogant, but see, this is what Jesus Christ died for, to give to you and your children. This is what the saints died for, to give to you and your children. Really. The truths of the Catholic Church in matters of faith and morals are more true than mathematics. They can't change. They're applicable to every generation, everyone, and they will never change. In matters of faith and morals, because it can't. See, when I was becoming Catholic, I heard so many people saying stuff like, oh man, I can't wait to get a new pope because he'll change things. He will allow contraception and abortion and women will become priests and this, that, and the other. Look, man, if that's what you want, I'm going to pray with you that the cardinals elect a deaf, dumb, blind idiot. Because when they do, you're going to be shocked and bewildered when nothing changes. Because it can't change. It's not a human institution. It's a divine institution. She's the bride of Christ. And unless we have the humility to surrender to that, you're not going to get better. And your family's not going to get better. And your country's not going to get better. And the world's not going to get better until we acknowledge the truth. The truth will set you free. Not people who come and tickle your ear and tell you whatever you want to hear and what makes you feel good and helps you to live your life like a beast. You're not a monkey. You're a child of God. And you've been put here for a reason. To come to surrender your life and your heart and everything to a God who is so madly, radically in love with you that he puts up with us as our Father and is willing to forgive us time and time and time again. It's amazing. God's not given up on humanity. Trust me. If he can do what he did with me, you, your situation, your husband, your children, and all their funkiness, God loves them. And God's not going to abandon them. What's your role? Trust and pray. These are unbelievable times, and you're going to hear about that in the talk next with the Archbishop about the Eucharist, the source and the summit, the true body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. The true Son that makes everything have life. Really. It's the greatest gift. You're going to hear talks tomorrow about one of the greatest blessings for our times, the Divine Mercy message, with promises that are unbelievable. Unbelievable message. Tap into this, my friends. Take my example of this weak, miserable dude you see before you. A priest, yes, but your brother. I'm nothing. I must decrease, he must increase. I am nothing. Pray for my ongoing conversion because I need it. But I want you to remember this. God has not abandoned you or your husband or your children or your situation. Trust him. That's the message for our times. Love him and be a more fervent, devout, informed Catholic than you have before. If that's the one fruit you get from this convention, that's the best fruit you could get. I don't know you, and I'm leaving on Monday. But if this convention doesn't increase your faith, then what'd you come? Then what'd you come to hear? Let it get the fervor going in you. Stoke it, feed it, and become on fire for Jesus Christ and Catholicism. Because the Catholic Church is your spiritual mother. Don't do what I did for so many years and say to my mother, get out of my face, stay out of my room, I got rights. That's what so many children do to their spiritual mother today, the church. They smack her in the face when she just wants you to have the fullness of freedom. And baby, don't play outside because there's wolves out there and they'll eat you. Baby, these are the rules. You got all the freedom you want right here, and this will get you to the ultimate playground of paradise. But as your mother, I love you, and I'm telling you, don't play in the street because you're going to get hurt. Remember that as a fruit of this conference. God loves you, and the church is here for you. Time and time again, she will never leave you. Though wounded and broken her membership, you and me, everybody. Trust what Jesus Christ has established, because it alone has the answers that will bring you the fullness of life. God bless you.